Taylor, it wasn't pretty throughout, and then in the fourth quarter, you guys found a way to win. I guess what got you over the hump?
We just finally got our legs, our mind, whatever it was. These last couple games have been tale of two halves for us for sure. I think both teams were definitely struggling in that first quarter, and even that second quarter, low scoring affair, just kind of sluggish both ends. And we started finding a little bit of groove in the third quarter, but we just kept pressing upon we got to have some breakthroughs with our pace. We know it starts with our defense. Their second chance points were hurting us in moments. Then we get a couple steals, deflections. We get out, we run, create a little bit more movement in the half court. Luckily we found our juice. In the fourth quarter, our guys were trying, they were competing, just like we were just kind of stuck in mud for the first 2.5, 3 quarters. And luckily in the fourth quarter, it's against this team that it's hard to score against, to get 37 points and big time performances by Jaren, Ja, Dez, especially late in the game, just figuring out to put them in different spots. We get a couple of offensive rebounds. Bench was struggling throughout the game, but we had some spark moments, in the fourth quarter. And then when we brought the other guys back in, they definitely carried us to a nice victory at the end.
Hey, Coach, in the first half, Edwards had a good offensive performance, but the second half, you was able to contain them. What did you do in the second half to contain them?
Say that again about Edward. Well, yeah, I don't know how much we contained him. He's one of the best players in the game. Obviously, 18 free throws. We couldn't keep him from the free throw line. Did a pretty decent job, from the three-point line. He had 3 assists. We were trying to get the ball out of his hands. They were doing some different things early in the game with him not in a pick and roll, doing more off-ball screens, and that really hurt us. And we made a couple adjustments there, with our coverages off-ball. So I thought that helped us, and just came up with some big-time plays. He did a great job getting the ball out. Thought our rotations were pretty good. Some guys, had some good open looks that they missed, and we give up some boards. But we wanted the ball to go to certain guys, and luckily we got enough stops late in the game. And overall, we got to do better to keep them off the free throw line. That's too many free throws.
Taylor, how much have you seen Jaren sort of grow in these closing moments? Obviously, he had, I think, 15 of his 24 in the fourth quarter, but also the rebounding as well. But particularly in the closing moments with him being comfortable in that spot.
It's big time. I think when I've got a number of guys that can make an impact on both sides of the floor late in the game, he's definitely a guy that's shown that over the years. But his progress and development on the offensive side, to be able to throw him the ball, decision maker, big time bucket, in the post. Using him as a screener a little bit, at different times based off of certain matchups, and then defensively, what you're going to get from him. He's going to block shots. His communication, I think he played 12 straight minutes maybe there, maybe even more to finish the game. His communication was great. I could see the attention to detail, with his off-ball defense and a big driver of our success to get those stops late in the game. So two-way player, he's elite at it, and obviously he had a huge impact in our success tonight.
Taylor in the back. A bunch of times in the fourth quarter, you guys cut it to 2, cut it to 3. They would get an offensive rebound, seemingly hit a quarter 3 every time. I imagine at that point, probably be easy for the guys to say, maybe it's not our night. What do you think the win and being able to overcome that said about the resilience and persistence of the group?
Yeah, that's what I told him immediately after the game. Great resilience. We don't want to make a habit of it where it's, we got to turn it on in the second half. I'm not saying that we weren't trying to turn it on in any of these recent games, just how we find our way, across 48 minutes. Even when they score, just it's that roll change mentality. I kept hitting roll change mentality. They score, we got to stop, we got to get out and run, we got to play at our pace. I love the effort we're giving defensively. They make a shot, so be it. And then I think when we finally kind of took the lead, it was characteristic of those cycles, defense to offense, and then it was back and forth. What a heck of a game. This was definitely an energy burner for sure, I can imagine, for both teams, and chess matches back and forth with lineups and coverages. But at the end of the day, it was just the winning plays that you had to make down the stretch, and we weren't making them in the meat of the game. Luckily, we made them down at the end of the fourth quarter.
Taylor, going back to Jaren, I think he had 3 fouls in the first half. You had to take him out pretty early. Just curious, what, if anything, have you noticed about, I guess, his approach with, the fouls? Because, it used to be a bigger talking point, but now this season we're not talking about it as much. 3 first half fouls, none in the second half, and like you said, you played him the entire fourth.
Yeah, just better awareness. He understands. I think, he lost the ball to get his third and was kind of trying to just get a 50-50 ball and got his third. So sometimes it's unfortunate, but I think he's getting himself out of those situations a lot more throughout the season. And unfortunately, having to be out for a big stretch of that first half due to fouls, came back in with just, a very focused mentality, still maintaining his aggressiveness aggressiveness on offense, driving, coming over, blocking shots, rebounding, making 50-50 plays. So his awareness is there, but it doesn't stop him from being active. So I think it's just, growth, and just through those experiences. And I think it's really paid off. And I'm proud of him because, again, it was kind of a tale of two halves for him, very similar to what the team went through tonight.
Taylor, just going back to that where you said Jaren played the last 12 minutes of the game to close out the game. In this game, the San Antonio game, you've gone with at least 2 of the 3 of Ja, Dez, and Jaren on the floor at all times, whereas before you'd had that little middle burst sub in the fourth quarter. What has gone into that substitution pattern to just ensure that those guys are on the floor in the winning time?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important. I've talked to those guys about it. I want to be mindful of it. And then when there's opportunities where if they're out and, our subs or bench is coming in, they're building leads and they're playing great, those guys are the first ones to say, let this group keep rolling. And, we've been in some tight games at the start of the fourth quarter, single, 2, 3 possession games and, give them just enough breaks so that when they come in, they've got that burst to play 7, 8 straight minutes. I mean, Jaren, we've always leaned into his stretchability, on the offensive side, and then obviously his defensive presence, based off of some of these matchups. So I'm definitely mindful of it, but, we'll just kind of read the game as we go. But it's been great that, in the fourth quarter, they've really helped. But also those San Antonio games, our bench was huge to spark some big runs for us too.
GG's debut today, and obviously what he was able to do in the ebbs and flows of the game whenever he got opportunities to, obviously guard some pretty big time matchups on the opposite end.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I mean, the way the game was going, just wanted to inject some, new energy out there. I actually hadn't had him plan to be in the rotation right out of the gate. Just got to stay ready. That's what I told him. But, when he went in there, he was playing with great effort. He was trying to get his bearings. It's the chemistry with his teammates. It's his first game, playing with this group. So there was a couple, miscommunications on the offensive side. But I actually thought defensively he was doing a good job with his point of attack defense. Some small doses, but his awareness of going and rebounding and, him guarding perimeters was a big focus last year. And then I think tonight he was having to guard Randall or Reed, bigger guys. So it was kind of a lot thrown at him, on the fly. And I thought he handled it very well. And, he's going to keep putting in the work. And a guy that, we're very excited about as he, gets back into game condition and just kind of gets that rhythm with his group.
Coach, congratulations on the win. When you're designing your final defensive of play, going up against them, trying to go either for the tie or for the win, are you taking your best educated guess in the huddle that they're going to do this? We think they're going to go for 3. We think it's going to be Ant-Man that's going to try to shoot it. Or how many different looks are you going to talk to your team about going into that final strategy for that last play?
Yeah, we try to give them the main priority that we think is going to happen, right? You're doing your homework, scouting process, what they've run in a game, over the last, couple of weeks, months, even dip into the archives. You try to see trends. We had a pretty good feeling that they were going to go to Edwards at the end of the game. Obviously, he was having a heck of a night, and he's big time in those moments. So, we account for that, but then we also give him, with the time that was on the clock, hey, if there's a variable to this situation, how are we going to cover that? And we're not going to be confused. Somewhat of our scheme behind that as well. So that's kind of what we get there, guys, but you don't want to overload with too much information. I thought the guys had great communication. We sent a double team at him. He still got a shot off, and, thankfully it came up a little bit short, but thought the communication was great so that you give them just the right amount of information, and then they just kind of read the situation.
Coach, I wanted to just ask you about the rooks, obviously Jalen Wells and Zach Edey, and how they've progressed in your opinion, and also, can you just speak to the trust that you have with Jalen taking on the assignment of guarding Ant?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen tremendous growth from both of those guys. They make the most of every opportunity. They understand that, their jobs to go out there and impact winning, focus on defense. I've seen Zach grow so much, just adapting to the speed and physicality of the game, adopting a new style of offense as well. And, some nights he's going to have a huge impact, from a minute standpoint. And then, tonight he starts and we adjust, but he's always staying ready, for when his number's called. And he's made progress just day after day after day, just getting more comfortable with the systems we roll out, offense and defense. He's playing with a lot of confidence. And then you talk about Jalen, a guy that, it was pretty quick to insert him in the starting lineup when we were facing some injuries because of his work ethic, his attention to detail, his defense first mentality. And I've got a lot of faith. I mean, he's going to have his moments of great success and then his learning moments as well, going up against the best each and every night, the best guards and wings. And he never, gets defeated. Guy has a good night, has a good play on him. He's getting right to the next play. You see him have the confidence to still shoot on the offensive side, not let something linger. His poise has really jumped out to me. So for those two guys to make a lot of progress and just be comfortable in their own skin, your rookie season is a big step. And I think those guys are displaying that pretty much every day.
I want to go back to Jaren real quick. there was a point, I think, leading up to this season where in these late game moments you would just throw the ball to Ja and he would do his thing. But now you're getting a mix of those two, and really three with Desmond as well. What goes into the decision making of those late game situations and the decision to put the ball in Jaren's hands in those situations versus giving it to one of the other stars?
Yeah, it's great that I have that opportunity to first engage those three guys and talk about it. I try to stay connected with them and get their opinions on how we execute late game, which is an area for us to improve for sure. Half court offense always on our mind, and I love getting their feedback and their trust within each other is the first thing they talk about. If we see something, we're going to go to so and so or this or that. Sometimes it's who's been rolling. It's the coverages that the opponents are in. It's the matchups that they're in. When we do want to slow it down and get the ball where it needs to go. So the fact that those guys have faith within each other is a huge boost for me, knowing that I've got so much faith in those guys. And it's just amount of us, in the timeouts, dead balls, I'm constantly pulling them over. What are you seeing? You see this matchup, see this coverage. Hey, when we do need to slow it down, what are y'all thinking? We've talked about this. And then when we go out with a simple game plan, more often than not, we can get the execution to the level it needs to be and the great shot, but definitely areas to clean up. But that process has been great that those guys understand what we have, the luxury of having those three guys that can make those plays late in the game, and they can also facilitate in those moments. It's not just about scoring. So, it's a fun process to engage with those guys. Great. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.